forest fire smoke has vanished. I've got a nice warm cup of tea. And I fixed a bug with my Ford Charge Station Pro that has been plaguing Ford F150 Lightning owners, well, since it rolled off the production line. Sometimes at this channel, we make a video and we plan it weeks, sometimes even months in advance. If we're going to make a road trip to see a particular company, or we've got a press car on loan, we have to plan that out in advance. And sometimes we make filler videos like you were supposed to see today, offering you tips and tricks to deal with owning an EV when a disaster happens. But then something happened today, something truly monumental and exciting that we just have to share immediately. This is our Ford Charge Station Pro. You will know all about the problems that we've had with this unit and all of its predecessors for the entire time that we've owned Ford F150 Lightnings. I'm not going to go into great depth here, but this Ford Charge Station Pro not only charges my truck, but it also feeds power from the truck's battery back to the home integration system behind me, allowing me to power my house in a power cut. And in the last 2 months, we've had multiple power cuts, some of them caused by people crashing into power lines after drinking too much, and some of them caused by other things. Nevertheless, this station has been used multiple times in recent weeks to power our home. And just last week, when our local utility company had a peak power event, we used this, combined with my truck and the units behind me, to provide power to my house for 3 whole hours, essentially meaning our house was off-grid, allowing the local utility company to not power up a peaker power plant. Yes, I know, it wasn't just us that enabled that. All the people in the area who took part in the peak power event actually helped our local utility not turn on a peaker power plant, which in turn saved nasty emissions from being put into the air. So owning one of these is a really good thing if you have a Ford F150 Lightning. However, this charging station made by Siemens has been nothing but problematic for pretty much everyone who has owned it. And I know people will sometimes come into the comments and go, well, mine has been perfectly fine. But for anyone who's set this up with the smartphone app, inevitably it seems after a period of time, they stop responding, they go offline, they won't reset, and Ford ends up sending out a replacement unit and either replacing it with an electrician they send out to fix it, or getting you to foot the bill and have a local electrician near you fit it, for a cost, obviously. And let's just say that for a really long time, I and a group of other F150 Lightning owners have been trying to get inside this unit to try and gain root access to enable us to not only make tweaks to our hardware, but also fix some of the bugs that exist inside this unit. And today, I believe for the first time, I was able to not only fix this unit, which stopped working over the last weekend, but also fix the unit that has been sat in my studio for more than a year, being a very large, very heavy paperweight and refusing to do anything. So today's video is effectively an impromptu one-take video where I talk you through what happened, how we fixed it, and yes, I have submitted a bug report to Ford, and fingers crossed, Ford will fix it. Before we go any further, I want to acknowledge that this is going to be intentionally a little vague, and if you are not tech-minded, you might be left scratching your head at the end of it. And that's for a really good reason. You shouldn't be opening one of these up yourself. This has high voltage electricity inside. Electricity can kill you. Don't. Just don't. But when you remove this cover and the screws that hold the front plate on, you can attach a serial UART debugging console to this unit using a UART to USB adapter, which is how I did it. And then you can start to talk to the charging station. Now, if you watched videos on this channel about me opening up my Ford Charge Station Pros in the past and getting some kind of debugging interface up on a terminal window, you'll know that I hit a bit of a roadblock because I wasn't able to gain root access to the unit. This is basically a tiny little Linux computer. Inside here, there's a little microprocessor that runs code that is based on Linux. And it's set up in a way to try and be as secure as possible to make sure that people can't get access to it and do nefarious things. But it also makes fixing it really difficult. And there is a truly amazing F150 Lightning Forum owner, I'm going to link to the forum post where he discloses it, who finally got boot access or root boot access to this unit. Basically, there's a little SD card on the back side of the motherboard inside here. And if you get just the right bootloader, you can put it on an SD card, put it inside the unit, turn the unit on, and bypass all of the headaches that we were previously presented with. Once I was able to load a custom bootloader, I was then quite easily able to modify the data storage inside this unit and gain root access. For those who don't know, root access means that you should be able to modify files and directories as you wish. It's not a good idea to have root access to any computer, but for this particular purpose, I absolutely needed to. And that led me to fix the problem and to get this running again. So I said that this computer inside here is very, very small. It's smaller than the computer inside your cell phone, and it comes with a very small amount of memory storage. And just like any computer, when you fill up that memory storage with cruft, either the computer stops working completely, or it starts to give you error messages, or it starts behaving unpredictably. And there appears to be a bug in the firmware that these units run that creates a file that just keeps growing in size. It keeps ballooning in size, and it gets to a point where it takes up the entire storage, the entire hard drive, as it were. And that means that when you turn these units on or you reset them, they can't properly reload all of the software because there just isn't enough storage space for them to do things like write logs or change preferences or access the drive in any meaningful way. And that causes this unit to just go, I'm just not going to work properly. Now, you may ask, why does the charging station bit work when the smart app and all the other connected services, that's the thing that stops working? Well, it turns out there are multiple chips inside this unit. There's the main processor that runs the web services and the pairing protocols and does the Wi-Fi and all of that stuff. And then there's a separate chip that handles the EVSE side, the charging station protocols. That continues to work even if the other chip is in a reduced function state and cannot access its hard drive because the hard drive is full. And so the charging station itself will continue to work. But if you try and connect to this over Wi-Fi, you won't find it. If you try and reset the charging station, there's a little red button inside that you can press to force it to reset itself. That sometimes doesn't even work because the hard drive is so full of stuff. It needs to be able to have a little bit of space to actually start the factory reset process. And that's where today came in. Thanks to help from F150 Lightning Forum owners who had got root access, and thanks to a little bit of sleuthing on my part, I was able to identify the nefarious file that had ballooned both on my charging station in the studio and also the one here to about 1.3 gigabytes, which basically filled up all of the about 1.5 to 2 gigabytes that these have in terms of onboard storage. And as soon as I removed that file, which was just, it's called a process file, it just it looks like it was supposed to be sending data somewhere else, and the bug in the firmware just dumps it to disk rather than actually dealing with it properly. Again, I'm being really vague. If you are a computer nerd or you know Linux, you probably know where I'm going. Once I deleted that file, I'd like to call it a log file, but it's not really a log file. Everything started working again. This came back online. It connected to the Ford Pass app. It connected to the Ford Charge Station Pro app. It connected to my home integration system. It connected to my home assistant system. All of the things that I had previously set up started working again. And the same with the one upstairs. I have now shared my bug report with Ford and their engineering team in the hope that somebody can come up with a fix for whatever was causing that nefarious massive file to be written, which is clearly a bug in the software. And if that happens, then Ford will stop having to send out replacement units every time these stop responding. Now, what have I done that's slightly differently? Well, yeah, okay. I'm going to admit, I didn't stop there. So what I've done is I've given myself root access. It is a persistent root access. So even when the unit reboots, I still have access. I've created myself a secondary account so I can always connect to the unit. And I've written a little script that sits on here that monitors the size of that nefariously large file. And as soon as it starts getting a bit large, it just, makes sure that it's dealt with properly. And that means that hopefully this unit will continue to function. It will continue to have over-the-air software updates, and it will continue to charge my truck for as long as I have my truck. More importantly, it will continue to provide power from my truck to my home in an emergency, which is the only reason why I have this darn thing in the first place. Now, further down the road, this could open up the pathway for custom firmware, for the ability to change the charge rate that the charging station has based on how much solar energy I'm making, or the time of day and the local grid demand, or even how dirty the local grid is. Those are all things that you can pull quite easily off the internet from public data sources, and the sky is really your limit. And no, I'm not going to tell you exactly how I went about this, because I don't want people who don't have the electrical and software background to do it, doing it, because I don't want anybody suing me. Like I said, these things can kill you. But I slayed a bug, and I feel amazing. Thanks for watching until the end of this video. I know it was a one-take video, there's no B-roll or anything. Maybe Vi's going to put a little bit on, I don't know. We're filming this quickly, we're going to push it out today so that you will see it as soon as possible. But if you want to enable us to carry on doing videos like this, as well as videos like the other content that we make, including our 10 News Roundup show, our Sunday Musing, our Chicken and Garden Update, you can join us from $1.50 a month on Patreon or YouTube. YouTube, just this week, changed its policies for AdSense and ad revenue. For the first time in about 12 years, our monthly YouTube ad revenue fell below $1,000, which is just orders less than it was when we first started doing this. And so Patreon really is a great source of income, and it keeps Vi paid, and it keeps Erin paid, and it keeps a roof over my head. So if you can, please consider supporting us. And Charlie needs food too. I'm sure he would appreciate it if I could continue to feed him, because while he is a giant cock and always interrupts my videos, at least when I'm out here, he's part of the family too. In terms of what's coming up, well, I kind of hinted. We have a video going out, it'll be next week now, about disaster preparedness. Then we have a couple of long-term loan vehicles coming. I'm surprised. I didn't expect a company to go, yeah, we're gonna give you a long-term loaner. I have 2 long-term loaners coming, which has never happened before on the channel, so super excited about that. You're gonna get to meet one of them next week. And then, well, I've been busy doing some electrical circuit design and other stuff involving my Ford F150 and the tonneau cover that I put on a couple of weeks back, the Wolfbox Smart Slide tonneau cover. There are some thoughts that I have about how it operates, and I've designed a special board, and we've got a new sponsor coming on board. You can probably guess who it is, to work with us to make that board, and then I'm writing a whole load of code to put on that board to add additional functionality to my truck. You'll learn all about it very soon. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope I'm not too giddy, and until next time, keep evolving.